This is Vivek Shukla here from Affairs in Conversation with. I'm extremely delighted to welcome a very special guest today afternoon, and this is none other than Miss Koel Ray. Miss Ray is currently the senior school principal at the Aga Khan Academy, Hyderabad, a postgraduate in history and a B.Ed. She is passionate about teaching and enjoy teaching IBDP history and theory of knowledge. She is examiner for DP history and extended essay. Ms. Koel is also a member of IB Educators Network. She's a school verification and evaluation visit IB chair and evaluation and program leader. She facilitates IB workshop for teachers and does school evaluation and verification visits for schools across Asia Pacific. She has been involved in various IB projects like the Big History Project and was a part of Big History Seattle Summit 2014-17 by Bill Gates Catalyst 3. Ms. Koel believes in developing a model of education built on the principles of peace, sustainability, and ethical leaderships. Her philosophy of education enters around the understanding that students need to be empowered in the key area of values, attitudes, skills, knowledge, and resourcefulness. Ms. Koel, I'm extremely delighted and privileged to have you with us in Affairs in Conversation. So thank you so much for being here. And today, the focus of this discussion is understanding the fineries of international boarding schools in India. And since you have your school is one of the renowned school offering the residential facilities as well with a day scholars. So ma'am, my first questions, I'll come to you on, can you highlight what are the key advantages of a residential school? And I would say that how do residential schools add value to a child's life?
Thank you, Mr. Shukla. I would say I would really begin with His Highness's vision for our school. And the key values of a residential school will actually be explicit in that vision. So in one of his quotes, he says that educating effective future leaders is a high responsibility. To do it well, we must look beyond the world which is passing from sight and turn our eyes to the uncharted world of the future. We must rise above the antiquated approaches of earlier days and instead infuse in our students with what I would call the 3 A's of modern learning: the spirit of anticipation, the spirit of adaptation, and the spirit of adventure. So I think, this beautifully explains our vision, whether it's for the residential program or for the school. We have a very powerful philosophy, and our students in a residential program are not just part of a school, but they are part of a wider network. And what adds value to our residential program is our belief in our key values, which we call the Aga Khan strands of pluralism, culture, ethics, economics for development, governance, and civil societies. So our residential programs is really organized keeping these values in mind. So it's really schooling in the art and science of thinking, the ability to go on learning, and how to make this experience in the residential, in the residences, an opportunity for students to experience diversity, interact with people from different backgrounds. We have students coming from diverse backgrounds, and that adds a lot of value to the life of the students. Because they have first-hand experience of cosmopolitanism, and they learn to take up various leadership role within the residential program. So the residential program at the school is really student-driven. It is student-centered, and what it aims at developing in student is really a very pragmatic and a cooperative temperament, a strong ethical orientation. And I think the most important part is developing a capacity for intellectual humility. So the more they act with people from diverse backgrounds, they develop this pluralistic mindset. So that is what really adds value to the residential program. We have a beautiful campus. We have world-class facilities. And that's there. But I would say that in addition to that, the values that we stand for really makes a difference, because you can have all the facilities, but it's important what you do with them. So even when we have beautiful fields, football fields, cricket fields, tennis courts, but it's not just about the sporting spirit. It's about the real sporting spirit, where you develop that pluralistic mindset, you develop leadership skills, and that's something that we consciously do in all our programs, whether it's residential or academic.
Ms. Ray, in your response, you mentioned about diversity. You mentioned about cosmopolitan. So, ma'am, these factors are extremely important in a residential school. And as far as I know, you have many nationalities in your schools. And when you go and you also try and reach out to diverse nations, so that the representation of an international community is very well there in your school. So, like your schools, many other schools from India also, they follow or they practice the similar format. So, ma'am, when you go outside India and you position yourself, so what are the key things, what attracts these foreign nationals to residential schools in India? And if you can highlight on those points, see what makes boarding schools in India so special in an overseas market.
Yes. That's a very interesting question, because we have many international schools which have a diverse population, right? We have students in almost all international schools coming from different countries. But the difference with us is really that we have a program we call the Talent Identification Program. So that the aim of that program is really to identify talent from diverse background, not only in terms of nations, but in terms of economic conditions, in terms of from diverse social backgrounds. And the criteria that we look for is leadership, is intellectual promise, potential. And we pull out those kids from those backgrounds and we give them the opportunity of studying at the academy. So that's the difference, because it's a conscious process for us. It's not simply an admission process, but it's a process of enriching the life of the academy and really making a difference to the lives of those students. So we have students from different parts of India. We have students from Afghanistan. We had students from Tajikistan. We are, widening our talent identification program. But it's a very conscious process where we are really focused on the vision. So we want those individuals who have that promise of leadership, that spark in them, and we give them that opportunity. And when they come to us, they enrich the community, because they bring with them an experience that adds enormous value to the life of our students, to our lives, the life of educators. And everybody is positively impacted by that diversity. So I think I would say that what really attracts, what may attract an international, parents living abroad, I would say the vision. We have this lofty vision of creating this community of ethical leaders, and that's our mission really. That we do the IB because the IB aligns with that mission. But the mission is not the IB. The mission is creating ethical leaders of tomorrow, leaders who are going to serve the community and who are, stewards as well.
So IB act as an enabler here.
Yes, absolutely. That's the right way to put it.
Wonderful, ma'am. I think, our viewers have gathered the important elements, or I would say the USPs of residential schools in India. Ma'am, I think it's very, people will be relate to it, to your school or to a residential school. If you can help the viewers understand how a day progresses in a residential school. So what time you start and the students' activity in general from morning till evening. If you can just give us the flow of the day, I think that would be very, very useful for the viewers to understand the deliverables in a residential school?
Yeah. So, it's a very exciting residential program that we have, but I would start off by saying the structure that we have in place. So we have with us two deans. We have the Dean of Students and we have the Dean of Enrichment. And another position is the head of student well-being. So these are the key pastoral positions in terms of leadership that really support the residential program. So a typical day of a student at the Aga Khan Academy residences would begin with early morning sports. And when I say sports, it's we offer a variety of sports, starting from football, cricket, tennis, badminton, squash, and then swimming. So it begins with sporting activity. They have they go to the what we call the commons or the dining area, and they go for breakfast, and then they move into the academic building. So they move into the senior school, and that starts at 8:10 when they start coming into school. And between 8:10 to 8:55 is the time when students spend with their advisors. Every student, every teacher is an advisor here, including myself. So we all have groups of students with us as our advisees, and we mentor them. We, look into their social-emotional aspects. We kind of act as kind of parents to them in looking after their mental health, and they being their first point of contact in many ways. So they have the mentoring time, but that's also time between 8:10 and 8:55 when the school settles down. So there's a lot of exciting things that happen. There are assemblies that happen. There is, there are house meetings and house competitions that happen. And then from 9 o'clock, so we have this 5 minutes changeover time. From 9 o'clock, we start the regular classes. So, you have the academic classes that go on, and then in between we have a short break, and then again, a couple of classes, and then a lunch break. And then finally we end the day at 3:15. After 3:15, our day scholars, they go back home. The residential students, they have evening sports. And then they, go back to the dorms and they freshen up. And then between that time in the evening is sort of, it has dinner, of course, but they also have a guided study hour where the dorm parents actually monitor the study hours. The subject teachers living on campus are available because most of our teachers live on campus. It's only a few teachers, a handful of teachers, in fact, who live off campus. So the advantage is really to have the teachers on campus, and they can reach out to the teachers to clarify their doubts, if they need help with reinforcement of concepts, or they have various activities they organize. For example, a school summer production is coming up, so that's the time they practice. So they have dinner and then they go off for practicing. So these are the various things that happen over a weekday. The weekends are really exciting because they are either going for hiking, they're going for cycling. And if you see our campus, there is a lot of biodiversity within the campus. And it really facilitates these kind of activities. So you have biking races, and then you have, they do camping under the stars, and it's really beautiful, the kind of program that is there for, and many of the staff offer a variety of activities. You may have a poetry reading session that is offered by a staff member. So they attend those sessions. It may be a food festival that's organized and they celebrate that. This weekend, we have the MUN happening. So, and all these activities are student-led. That's the beauty of it. So, we are there to guide them, but we say that, look, you are there out in the front organizing these activities. So it's MUN, and, there'll be another weekend where they'll be preparing for TEDx. They'll be preparing for their sports day. So there's something or the other happening. And a lot of time in the weekend is actually spent for community and service activities. So they now things are, back to normal, and they have the opportunity of actually going out. For example, a few days back, there was a group that went out to Blue Cross. But there are our locality is also location of the school is very interesting, because we are away from the city, and we have communities that surround the school. And so there is a lot of community activities that go on with those schools, community schools that are around the campus. So these are the kind of activities that they are engaged in. They may go out for a hiking trip. A weekend back, they had gone for an IAYP trip. So yes, we are very conscious that they don't spend time in social media, and they don't while away time, but they really use that time consciously.
I'm really excited, and in fact, I would say I'm tempted to come back to boarding school.
Yes.
I think it's so I think well crafted day where students are getting immense opportunity to explore their imagination, curiosity by doing a lot of activities. And I think a professional guidance is also provided in such an environment. Well, I'm really, really happy listening to what you are offering at the Aga Khan Academy. Ma'am, I think a common questions is always there in parents' mind. At what age? At what age they should send their child to a boarding school? Because honestly, as a parent, it's a very emotional decision for most of us. Sending a child, away from the family to a boarding school, and what should be the right age, because by that time where the child is very much settled. If you can just give us give the viewers some uh, advice on that part.
Yes, ideally, if I would to see it in terms of grade, I would say grade 6. That would be the better, the best. It's best to send the child in grade 6, when our senior school, actually middle school, starts from grade 6. So that's when the child really is prepared to take in the challenges, because it's sometimes a big change. Living in the residences also needs some amount of independence and self-discipline, which we nurture, but you need a certain readiness to be in the residence. And initially there are a lot of hiccups. Sometimes students miss home, and but what I also want to add is, when we are selecting our teachers, when we interview teachers, we just don't interview them based on their subject knowledge or expertise. We actually try to see whether they are good mentors, which is why when they become dorm parents, they are able to support students. So increasingly, we emphasize on having people with us who really believe in positive mentoring. That's something that we are very conscious about, and in our recruitment process, everything, that's what we try to find out. So there is a lot of support that is given. The dorm parents play a very important role. We have, our head of student well-being, who who has a lot of experience in counseling. Dr. Jeff Defler he has around 30 years experience in counseling, and he has been based in India for many years. So he knows the context very well. So there is a support system that helps the child to settle down, and we make sure that the child slowly adapts to the residential life. So I would say grade 6 would be the ideal time to join the residences.
Wonderful, ma'am. I think this will be certainly very helpful for the viewers to, understand and be a little rest assured that grade 6 onwards would be the right, grade to consider sending the students or the child to a boarding school. Ma'am, I think you have a diverse offering, when it comes to a residential schools. Now, if you can highlight some of these schools' extraordinary achievement in last, a decade or so, whether it's in sports or in academics. I think if so that the viewers can relate to their aspirations, what they're having from their children. If you can please highlight on those aspects.
Yes, my approach to this would be looking deeper into what we mean by really great, extraordinary, achievements. So I'll start off by, if I, the general, if I were to ask this question to someone, and the obvious answer would be those tangible achievements that you see. So for example, we have a child who's the youngest in India to hold the official Limca Book of Records for the maximum number of Rubik cubes. So we have the youngest girl child who has her name in the World Book of Records for as a pianist. We have also we have achievements in sports where our teams have won football tournaments across Hyderabad, across India. These are the tangible achievements. We've had a lot of success during online learning. Students have won competitions that are online competitions related to math and science, and we use a platform called Education Perfect, and they've really done very well there. There's also another side of these great achievements, which is what do students actually do in terms of really developing leadership skills. So those kind of activities, I would say that collaboration with other schools. So we are part of a network of schools. So we have, just like we have an academy in Hyderabad, we also have an academy in Mombasa, in Maputo, and there's the academy in Dhaka coming up. So within the network, there is a lot of opportunities to collaborate. And one of our, one, I would say a great achievement is something like we had something, a cultural exchange called the Culture in the Box, where we not only collaborated within the network, but we were also collaborating with schools in Russia and in some parts of Europe. So those are achievements that I would really say that really stand out, because when students participate in such events, they develop those skills that we are looking at, the pluralistic skills. Our great achievements are also our residential program that we offer. So we have, for example, we have the Literature in Translation Club, the Modern Literature in Translation Club, and you would have students discussing Tagore's poems and Mirza Ghalib, and
Wow.
that's a very rich. That's a great achievement, because again, it's student led. It's entirely students come up with these ideas, and of course supported by our teachers. We all IB schools do the art exhibitions because art is really important as a subject. So I would say that if you were to visit school, earlier in the month, you would see our art exhibition, and the theme of the art exhibition is unique. I mean, it was called Event Horizon, and it showcased paintings and sculptures and drawings and photography they were exploring themes like mental health, womanhood, self-identity. So these are very rich in themselves, and it really adds to the richness of the community life here. So I would say that, other than the sporting activities and everything, I would say that this would also be one of our achievements.
Great.
Yeah.
Ma'am, if you can also, mention about your admission criteria, as well as, in case if you have some financial assistance for some meritorious students or scholarships for international students, I think those elements would be very helpful for our viewers to, to look at it. Yeah, please.
The admission criteria is they have to undergo a CAT-4 test. But other than that, there is also interviews. There are interviews. The criteria would go back to our vision that why is this child wanting to join us? So what is it that the parents are looking at? Are they invested in the vision? Is that the reason why they are coming to our school, or is it simply because of IB, because there are many schools that offer the IB. So I think other than the regular criteria, which is the admission test and the interviews with the leadership team, um, we are more interested in knowing the reasons why the parents want to join the network, because when you admit a child, even the parent becomes part of the community, right? So is the parent really invested in that vision of creating ethical leaders? So that's what we look at. We really believe in having those conversations with parents, with the student. Conversations with the students are really important for us. And we try to understand the reason behind it. There is definitely an admission criteria, because the program that we offer at the academy is a very rigorous program. So what we would want to see in a child is analytical skills, and whether the child reads, whether the child is fond of reading, whether the child is aware of what's happening in the world around us. So those are the kind of skills that we want to look into, other than just the scores. um, and whether the child has had opportunities to be involved in leadership activities. What's the child's idea about community and service? Is it important? These are the kind of questions that we would look into.
And ma'am, about some financial assistance or scholarship program in case if you have for some meritorious students?
Yes, that's based on the performance of the child, and there is the admission teams follows up and does a needs analysis, and then accordingly, the scholarship is decided.
So great to know about so many, I think, factors you mentioned. Ma'am, if you can just, Ms. Ray, highlight on, how do you really prepare your students for life? I think you have touched upon this aspect by answering, the previous 4 questions. But in terms of, a global career, so the role of how you are well equipped with your college placements, or, helping students in deciding, getting into the right kind of programs, and what kind of assistance you provide to these students, especially at great senior level IBTP programs who are undergoing.
Yes. So I think I know that every parent would be interested in the college placements, because everyone wants to know whether there is that supporting system. And again, the difference between us and the other schools perhaps is that because we are part of a network of schools, we have, and because of His Highness's vision, we have several tie-ups with some of the leading universities. So there's a college counselor in school, but network-wide, there is a college counselor who is responsible for all the academies. And she's based in the US, but she works with the academies in Hyderabad, in Mombasa, in Maputo. So we have that support system. The college counselor regularly counsels the parents and the students. And we are very realistic in terms of college admissions and expectations, because what we make clear to the students and the parents is that we will ensure that you have a good degree, and we will also ensure that it's a holistic profile that you develop in school. It's not just about grades. So how else can we support you so that create those opportunities for you, whereby you will actually be able to develop those skills that will genuinely add to your profile. So the IB itself is a very rich program, which is valued by universities across the world, in India. But I think what we add to that is, for example, the internship opportunities that we have within the organization. And these internship opportunities actually expose students to real world challenges, because we have, for example, the Aga Khan Education Services, giving internship opportunities in areas of communication, technology, design thinking, human resources. Then the Aga Khan Agency for Habitat India, you have opportunities for exploring environmental health and so on. opportunities with the UNICEF, then also working with the Worldwide Fund for Nature. So these opportunities really prepare the students for life. And these are sometimes extremely challenging, because they go and they live in extremely challenging environments and deal with complex issues. So this adds to the student portfolio. So when universities abroad see our students, they see a very holistic profile, which is not just grades, but it's also service and leadership opportunities. And to answer your questions about how we nurture global citizenship, I think I would say that it's a very conscious focus that we have. So, for example, even when we choose the content, how do we decide a curriculum? We have that global dimension there that we keep in mind. What opportunities is the curriculum itself giving to my students to develop this global mindset? So leadership opportunities, and opportunities to work with diversity, to take part in stimulating dialogues, is there in the curriculum, is there in the teaching and learning. That's how we develop the attributes of a global citizen. So for example, our approach to education is a right-based approach. So whether you do mathematics, you do sciences, you do humanities, languages, you always are dealing with real world issues. You're dealing with issues related to justice, and you have the opportunity to constantly reflect on your worldview and yourself. And the whole process is very dialogic. So there is opportunities for our students to really think about what's happening in the world, and that's happening in the curriculum. So we don't just teach subjects, but we look at it as what we call areas of knowledge, where we see knowledge as interconnected. And of course, the real challenge here is we support the teachers. We recruit teachers who have that knowledge of pedagogy, because the pedagogy has to be very transformative, if you want to bring about these change. So global citizenship develops like this through the curriculum, through our experiential learning program. We also have a program we called the Leadership Ethics and Awareness Program. The acronym is LEAP. And LEAP really prepares students with self-management skills, goal setting skills, and various, LEAP has opportunities to explore issues like, rights and responsibilities, mental health, mindfulness. So this is how we expose students to what it means to be a global citizen.
Ms. Koel, thank you so much. I think it was a great learning for me as well, though, I was aware about your school. I got the opportunity to, visit once to your school, but I think the great amount of work which you are doing, I think the commitment, and certainly with a global mindset, you are nurturing the young generations of India. And why India? I think a lot of international students are also, coming to India, to international boarding schools for their education, because now India is certainly a platform which is providing not only quality education with great infrastructure, but preparing children for tomorrow. I think preparing children so that they can compete comfortably in the world. And besides that, I think the context of global citizenship, which you mentioned, I think this is going to be the core contributor in building up the knowledge economy of the world. Thank you so much, Ms. Koel Ray. I'm really privileged once again to have you here. And I look forward to have another round of conversations, maybe in near future, with setting, where we will like to know more how you are progressing. And one more story I think we would love to do on your schools, on having only focusing on international communities in your schools, because that's the greatest USP, because you take part in various conferences and various exhibitions promoting representing Indian boarding school segment in a foreign country, and inviting the NRI and the foreign students to your school.
Yeah.
So wish you a great success. Thank you so much once again. Have a lovely, lovely day. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Shukla.